Okay, guys, I'm just going to welcome you all and thanks everybody for coming. The main focus of this webinar today is going to be looking at setting up your own online teaching company. And I think now more than ever, we've realized, especially kind of with the pandemic and everything like that, that there is absolutely no better time to get into this sort of business. And I don't think it's going anywhere. So it's a lovely time to get started with it or to learn a little bit more about it. So the main focus of the webinar will be looking at that, but I'm going to go into a small bit of background about myself. And we're going to look at the basics of teaching English online. And then we're going to eventually look at the steps to setting up your own company. Okay. There is a lot of information thrown around here in terms of websites, tools, and everything like that. So if you have a pen and a paper, I would advise having it next to you or having something that you can write, because I am throwing out a lot of names and things like that. That can be very useful. So just have something there beside you as well. Also as well, if anybody wants to put into the chat box, it's a bit helpful for me. If anybody could just put in there a little bit about their own profile. Basically, are you TEFL qualified? What's your own background? Did you run a business before? Just a little bit of a bio or a profile or anything like that, just so we can kind of get a handle on what where everyone is at. Have you run a business before? Is this your first time doing anything along these lines? Are we TEFL qualified? Are we in business? Things like that, just to get a better handle on what people's profiles and bios are. That would be very helpful for me. Okay, so a little bit about myself. So what is my background and how did I get here? And I apologize to anybody who's been on my previous webinars because you'd be sick of hearing this, but I'll run through it anyway. So I've been teaching TEFL now for about 8 years myself. I actually started off with a very basic 120-hour TEFL course back in 2013. And I started off in a placement as part of university in Malta. So I ended up absolutely loving the placement and decided that I initially had wanted to go into primary school teaching, and that was the plan. But then I absolutely fell in love with English language teaching and fell in love with being abroad and kind of never looked back since then. So I did the 120-hour TEFL course in 2013. I then went on to do a CELTA in 2014. In between 2014 and 17, I spent time in teaching in language schools in Malta, Germany, and Istanbul, kind of for long-term stints. I taught at schools. And then I spent some time also here in Ireland teaching in language schools in Cork and Galway. It was then in 2015 where one of my colleagues started teaching online. And it wasn't actually, to be honest with you, it really wasn't a massive thing back there. You know, people would do it, but it really wasn't huge as it is now. So in 2015, one of my students said to me in Galway, listen, they were leaving Galway and they said, I want to continue lessons. How are we going to do this? And I said, well, maybe I could teach you through Skype if you wanted. And we could continue our lessons that way when my student went back to Germany. So that's really how I started getting into teaching English online. And I realized that that person had a friend of a friend, and I realized that a lot more students were asking me to continue their lessons online. And eventually that's how I got into teaching online. And I started working with a company myself, a company that, an online company already called Fluentify. I worked with them for 1 year. And then in 2016, I started my own online business. So I realized, okay, this is something I can definitely do by myself and gain all the profits from it. So that's what I was doing then. And then in 2017 and 2018, I started working here at the TEFL Institute of Ireland, training teachers to do what I do. And here I am now. So basically, I still run my online business and I teach mornings, evenings, and at the weekends. And I have other teachers teaching for me as well. And yeah, that's where I am now. And teaching online, guys, it's so good. You know, in the last 2 years, I've been to, I think it's about 25 countries in that time. Just continuing with my business and not having to kind of be worried about where I am. So I don't know if it's on anybody's list to kind of not be stuck in one place. It's a lovely, lovely kind of avenue or way to go down 100%. Okay, so that's me. And we're going to move on now to, I suppose, a little bit about teaching English online in general. And is there a market for it? So teaching English online is basically teaching non-native speakers over the internet through like camera, webcam, or video platform. Lessons can either be one-to-one or they can be group lessons, okay? Over the last year, there's been a massive increase in the online teaching market, as everybody knows. And I think people have realized now, even post the COVID peak, I suppose, is that it's not changing. A lot of people have actually turned around and said, well, I'm not going to travel 2 hours to go to an English lesson. I'm going to continue online. And I think a lot of us have learned to do a lot more online. So there's a huge demand for this right now. In 2010, the English learning language was a $32 billion industry worldwide. In 2015, it was a $108 billion industry, and it's projected in 2025 that's going to be a $400 billion industry. So it's growing at a rapid rate. So it's a really nice time to get on the train, I suppose. There's a lot of market share for everybody. It's not saturated at the moment in terms of online companies. People are crying out for online teachers. So it's a really good time to get on board with it. So I suppose the next question that you were all probably wondering is, am I qualified to do this? Am I qualified to teach English online and start my own company? What are the requirements? So the beauty of, I suppose, starting your own online company is that there really are no requirements, because who's going to know what your qualifications are, if it's your own company. But what we do recommend, and what I would recommend, is that you definitely would want some sort of training before you go into this, for sure. So definitely you'd need your TEFL course under your belt. And I don't know, again, how many people here are TEFL qualified, but if people could actually, again, pop into the chat box what kind of qualifications they have. If they have it, if they don't, it'll make it that little bit easier. You do not need a teaching degree, okay? Contrary to what a lot of people think, you actually don't need a teaching degree in any discipline. You actually don't need any degree at all. If you're a fluent speaker and you have a TEFL certificate, then you can teach online and start your own business, okay? If you are working for an online company yourself, like another online company, some companies do require you to have that bachelor's, but it's not the case for all of them, okay? Other traits that I would say when starting your own business and teaching online is definitely, you want to be likable, have good energy, because having a good rapport with your students is literally half the battle, and it's what bring people back to you again and again. It's what keeps the money coming, is that relationship and good customer service. And another advantage is definitely to have knowledge, kind of marketing maybe, or a little bit of technology or other skills that might be transferable in starting your own business. Okay, so that does help a lot if you have a few of those other skills up your sleeve. I suppose a big question is, what are the advantages of doing it? Why should I do it? Why should I start up my own online business, right? Number one, and always is and always has been for me, 100% hands down, is that you can teach from anywhere in the world. As long as you have a laptop and a good Wi-Fi connection, you can do it there. And it's one of my things I always say to people is that I've been teaching in a beach hut in Fiji. I've taught in Bali, New Zealand, Australia, Istanbul, all with my own company and all on the same website. Yeah, your time zones might get a little bit fecked up sometimes, but it's absolutely fine. And you can get other teachers to do different time zones and things like that as well eventually. Another big reason, you can work as many or few hours as you like. You can kind of say, okay, I want to do 40, 50 hours this week. Okay, I want to take it easy this week. All right, setting your own schedule is huge, especially if you're somebody with a family, especially if you're somebody who has, a demanding lifestyle perhaps, or something that you need to commit a little less or a little more sometimes. It's very, very convenient. Another way as well, and one reason I like is teaching English online is actually really making a good impact and actually helping people around the world. It's actually helping people, get better jobs, improve their own lifestyle, eventually, get paid more because they can speak English, all these type of things. So you're doing a really, really nice thing as well, and helping people improve a second language for themselves. Okay. So that's kind of teaching English online in a nutshell. Okay. I'm just going to see here. I can see that some people have never run a business before, but qualified teacher doing TEFL. Okay. In the process of doing the 180-hour TEFL. Someone here is CELTA qualified, working full-time in a non-teaching role. Great. Doing TEFL, currently finishing my TEFL course, hoping to get a job from it, and doing TEFL. Okay. Thank you guys for sending those in. That does help. Okay, guys. So we're looking at the basic steps of teaching or setting up our own online company. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is what I recommend to all entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs is definitely, if you ever have the chance to work with an online company yourself, even if it's for 2 months, do that. Because if you sign up to an online teaching platform like your competitors, basically, you learn how they do it. You learn how they're working their systems, how much they're charging for lessons, how many minutes they do for their lessons, and you're stalking your competition essentially, okay? And what I would do as well is I would sign up to all your competitors, okay? So if you want to type into Google teaching English online, or I want to learn English online, if you see the top companies that come up, you'll have really big ones like italki, iTutor, Dada ABC, Say ABC. They're the big players in the world, right? Once you see these people come up, sign up to all their email newsletters. See what things they're promoting, right? If you signed up to them, they have your email address, you're a subscriber, you can see what they're offering. Okay, so you're getting an idea of what type of promotion these companies are running. You are getting an idea of what type of prices they're charging, you know, what kind of Black Friday deals might they have. You're just, you know, you're stalking the competition and getting to know them really well. Another sneaky thing that I would do maybe is if you had the chance, ring them, email them, tell them that you are wanting to learn English and you want to oh, my mind's gone blank. You want to learn English and you want to book a lesson. See what they come back with. See what they say. See what their price range is, just to get the feeling of what it's like to be a student. And if you can at all, try and get a job as a teacher, even if it's for voluntary, anything, just to see how their process works, their booking system, their calendar. How do you book the lesson? You know, how long is it? How do you pay? What type of lessons do they offer? Learn it all. And that's something you can do at the very start of setting up your online business, is just getting to know the industry inside out. Okay. The next thing I would do is, if you feel comfortable enough to start teaching online yourself and you say, okay, I'm ready now to do it myself and get my students on board, then if you are somebody, I know people are in different positions, but I'm going to run through 2 of the options. If you're somebody starting with 0 money, it can be a little bit different to somebody who might have saved a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand to invest in starting your business. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of go through the 2 routes. So if you're somebody who, the good news is it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can all do it, right? It might be a bit of a slower process, but it's all possible. So the first, if we're going from 0, okay, we're starting up our company tomorrow now and we have no money, we have 0, okay. So how to set up online totally free, guys. The biggest free marketing tool we have in the world right now is social media. It's amazing the opportunities that we have and the visibility that we have with social media. So first thing I would do is I'd set up a Facebook account, a business Facebook account, it's free. A business Twitter account, it's free. A business Instagram account, it's free. A business LinkedIn, it's free. And before you do this, you're kind of going to spend an hour or 2 on one day deciding what kind of niche you want to go down, guys, because this is big as well. You know, are you general English? Are you business English? Are you young learners English? Because it's very hard to do it all. Eventually, when you start growing the company, you can definitely go a bit wider, but my advice would be, at the start, pick a niche, pick a customer kind of base, because it's very hard, especially when you're marketing and things, to try go down every single avenue there is. So I would advise picking a certain niche. It would be business English. Do you want to do exam preparation? Do you want to do adults? Do you want to do group lessons? Do you want to do young learners? What kind of brand, what kind of vibe, essentially, do you want to give out? So what I always say to people is, think of your brand name, okay? And I'm just going to give you an example of my own company, just because I'm just thinking about how I set up my own. So my own company, anyway, is called Everywhere English, okay? And I actually can't remember why I decided that name or where it came from, but I just remember my tagline being learn English anywhere, okay? And that was my biggest thing. And I focus primarily on specialist English, so business English and exam English, okay? So I want students coming to me who want to study for an exam or business, okay? The reason I do this is because I can charge a lot more money, and that's the reason I do that. But what you'd want to do anyway is figure out your niche first, and then you can start. Once you have your niche figured out, you have all your social media set up, this is your first way of advertising yourself. And it's very, very, very simple just to tell people, I've started my own online business. This is my social media link. Please follow and share. Okay. And I know it's everybody's sharing and following these days, but it is the way forward, and it is how people are moving. I am 100% sure that we all know a lot of maybe non-native speakers who have families who are learning English, their cousins, their brothers, their friends. Tell them, use your voice and tell them that you are starting a business, because, you know, the more you say it, the more you can hold yourself accountable for doing this as well, which is the lovely little trick. It's, I'm starting a business, so I better start doing it, you know. So that's definitely something you can do. The next thing you can do for absolutely free is you're making your Skype or your Zoom account. Okay, so this is where you're going to teach the lesson on. Okay, again, it's a business. Keep it all the same, keep the brand the same, whatever you've decided to call your company. Another thing you can do for free, guys, is setting up a free email. Okay, you can use Gmail. Make sure you have a business account, because it just looks very unprofessional if you're emailing students from your own personal email address, and you can do that for free. Okay, I would suggest doing that straight away instead of going with your personal. You have a separate inbox, separate inquiries, and just keep it completely separate. And then with that Gmail account, another thing you can do is create a Google Drive account. And I'm sure a lot of you already use Google Drive, but you can use Google Drive to keep all your lesson plans, so you can recycle these lessons over and over and over and over again. So every time you create a lesson plan, you store it in separate folders, and eventually you'll have a massive almost library of lesson plans to use with your students. Okay, that's it. I suppose this is another webinar, but I mean, you could look at doing things like a folder for A1, a folder for A2 learners, a folder for B1 learners, a folder for business English, a folder for exam English. So you have a student coming to you, look, I want to learn, I want to improve my level. I'm currently a B2. I want to get to C1. You're in your Google Drive. You have your C1 Google Drive, and you have all your lesson plans already done for C1. Obviously, that takes a bit of a longer process, and building the lessons up takes time, but it is well worth it in the future. Okay, so these are all things that you can do for free, guys. Okay. Right. So the next thing you're saying, okay, how am I going to market my students? How am I going to bring students to me? So again, a really, really big thing is friends, referral, guys. Tell everybody. And a really big trick, and what I do for everybody when I started out, was I will offer every one of my students a free 30-minute lesson. Okay. So I say to people, as an incentive to bring them into your company, I will give you a free 30-minute lesson. You can then decide after that free lesson if you want to continue with me or not. 90%, 9 times out of 10 people do it. Okay, it's just about bringing them in initially, and people just need to break that barrier. And once you get their foot in the door, that's it, you have them. Okay, and in this first lesson, you're basically discussing their needs, their goals, what you can do for them, their level. And then you tell them, okay, if you want to continue with me, then this is the price structure, blah, 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 blah. but just getting them in first is a lovely way to do it. Okay. If you teach anyone at the moment in person, okay, or if you're teaching at a language school, it's another way to say, look, I run lessons online, just so you know. You know, it's a lovely little way. So if you're teaching in a language school or you're doing private lessons at the moment, if that person, you know, is going back home or they're leaving the school or something like that, tell them that you are gone online. Okay, that's another way. Local libraries, guys, local libraries, there's a lot of non-native speakers that go in there looking to kind of study and things like that. Go in there, tell them you're running an English learning service and that you're available for work. You know, local primary schools, secondary schools. Think about all the people in your local area who actually are non-native and might need some help in actually maybe improving their level at school. Tell them that you're online and that you're running a service and that your first lesson is free. Again, this is all locally, but if you start locally, eventually you really will build and build and build and build. Okay. This is again free way of marketing, and it's just, you know, literally no harm. There's no harm in doing it. Okay. Another thing I would recommend, guys, is it's very simple, but create your own needs analysis and student profile form. Okay, you can Google examples of those. Just Google, you can type into Google needs analysis TEFL or student profile TEFL. And basically this is just like a little document that you're going to have, or a form you're going to give to every student, and just keep that on file. Okay, it's very simple, guys. You know, put your little logo or put your title on top, whatever it might be, and have the name, age, nationality, their needs, their goals, what they want. And by this, you're just keeping a record of all your students that you have. Another thing that I would do as well for future reference is every time you get a student added to your business, create a database or create an Excel sheet on your Google Drive, on your business Google Drive, that you have your business Gmail and you have your, again, all for free. You have your business Gmail, you have your business Google account, create an Excel tracker and just write down every student that you've ever had a free lesson for, okay? Because you're going to be able to email this list in the future. So if you're running a promotion for Black Friday and you're offering 10% off all your lessons, you already have a long list of database or students that you've run lessons with or had your first free lesson with. These are people, these are leads, these are people who are interested. So always keep growing that database and have it on your Google Drive, okay? So you can send these people anything that it might be to market yourself, okay? Okay, moving on. These are a few websites that I just want to pop into the chat box that are free courses, okay, to basically learn how to market. So if nobody has any experience in marketing here, these are really good websites that you can learn how to market. Okay, I'm just going to throw them in, and they're all free, which is amazing. Facebook have an amazing online course, completely free, about how to utilize Facebook the best to run your business, and how to get the most online presence. I'm just popping these in, guys, sorry now. futurelearn.com is another big one. And Coursera, it's called, is another online academy that's completely free courses. So take those down and Google a course on marketing. Okay, it will help you. So everything I went through there, guys, was very traditional online, or sorry, traditional old-fashioned, old school marketing. Okay, they're old school marketing techniques. I'm going to move on a little bit and about how to go a step further. Okay. On kind of improving your presence and getting leads in, getting business, attracting traffic, okay? So the next thing I would do, guys, if you have around €100 or €200 to kind of play with or to set up your business, the one thing I really would do is I would create a logo or a brand, okay? So cheap. There is a a website called Fiverr.com. I'm sure some of you have already heard about it, but it's basically a website where freelancers go on and they charge minimal prices to do these kind of services for you. Okay, you can go to a digital marketing agency and they might charge you a couple of hundred for a logo. You can get one here for 30 euro, 20 euro. So you just explain to them, you know, what you kind of envision. You want to create a brand, you will have a logo in your head, and you want to have this logo. Then once you have this logo created, it costs you 30 euro. You put it on your Facebook account as your profile picture. You put it on your Twitter account as your profile picture, so on and so forth. On the needs analysis forms, the student profile forms that I was referring to a while ago, you stick your logo on the top right-hand corner. And all those little steps just make you look that little bit more professional, okay? When you're sending emails, in your signature, you have your logo, okay? That only costs you 30 euro and it sets you apart from so many other online teachers already because it looks so much more professional, okay? And it can be done very, very easily on Fiverr.com. Another thing that I would really recommend, if you have, again, a little bit of money to spend, 50 euro, you can get something like 250 euro business cards on Vistaprint. Once you have your logo decided, order 200 business cards. Always carry them with you, no matter where you are. If you're in the supermarket, if you're on holidays, especially if you're on holidays, because you're going to be meeting loads of non-native speakers. And whenever you're in a situation, guys, you know yourself, if you're talking over dinner and somebody says, yeah, I'd love to do lessons, or I'd love to hear about your business, give them the business card. You know, if you don't ask, or if you don't give these things out in the universe, you won't get them back. So hand them everywhere. And again, if you want to go that little bit step further as well, I'd recommend printing flyers as well with your logo once you've figured out that brand in your head, and hand them everywhere, okay? Schools, libraries, universities. There's a lot of non-native speakers, language centers in universities. Do a trip around one day, take one day, dedicate that day to handing them out, and you'd be surprised with how many people you'll get on board with that. Another way to get a little bit more student referrals is what I often offer my current students is I create a referral scheme, basically. So if they refer a friend, they'll get their next lesson free. Okay, so you're saying to every student that you have, if you bring me a student, you get a lesson for free. This is going to drive the student to kind of get more, and it kind of works in a pyramid, and you know, that student gets another student, that student gets another student. So if you can call it something simple as a friend referral scheme if you want, something along those lines. Okay, so again, that is a step further. If you, again, you start generating a little bit of revenue, you start making a little bit of money from the students that you have, the next step then is, guys, and it's, for me, it's the most important, I suppose, is to create a website. Okay, you can do this yourself if you're somebody with the tech skills. YouTube is amazing, but I mean, I just certainly, YouTube or not, wouldn't be my expertise to be able to do that. So definitely another one of these kind of platforms, again, Fiverr, Upwork. You can get freelancers to create a website for you. Again, it depends really on how professional or how basic or how comprehensive you want the website to be. I paid for my website back in 2016 with a good company based in Galway. It wasn't online or anything, it was just a digital marketing company. I paid €1,000 for my website. For someone like me, it was worth it because I'm not techie. I wouldn't have that much of an idea of too much of tech. So for me, it was very helpful to pay that money and just to have it done. But again, if you kind of want to go a little bit cheaper, check out those websites, Fiverr, Upwork. So once you've generated any bit of revenue, guys, the next step is get your website done. Okay, you have your logo, you have your brand, you have your social media presence. Next step is the website. Okay. Once you have the website, you're going to obviously have a URL or a website address, right? Then what we're going to do is when you go into social media, guys, there are so many English language groups. Okay, have you ever, if you type into Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and you just type into the search bar English language learning or learn English or something like this, these keywords, there is about a million groups that you can join. Okay, join every single one of them and post your website in those forums. Okay, so you go in and there's somebody saying, I want to learn English, blah blah blah. You say, oh great, you can get a free lesson here on this website. Okay, post your link in as many places as you know, as many affiliate websites, backlinks. You know, you want to get your website out there, and the most important thing is that you want to drive traffic to your website. That is number one. You just want to get visitors. You want to get the website out there, and the more visitors and the more traffic you have, the more that Google will bring you up on the SEO rankings too, and the more you go up on Google in terms of where your website is. Okay, that might sound like gibberish to some people, SEO and all that type of thing. Again, on those course, those free online courses that I gave you, it's definitely worth doing a course on search engine optimization if you've never heard about it. SEO marketing, definitely worth doing it. And what that basically is where your website is on Google. So if you type into Google, I want to learn English, who's number one? You know, who's number two? Who's number three? So it's about fighting for a place on Google and the ranking of where you are. You know yourself, if you type into Google, mobile phone, who's first? It's probably Apple. It's probably Apple or Samsung, right? Because they're the biggest players in the game. So your goal is to get to the top. This is called something called SEO. It sounds a little bit daunting, but if you do one of those little courses on the free courses that I gave you, you can learn a lot, okay? And you can also pay on these website Fiverr that I gave you already. You can also pay somebody to do your SEO. Okay, so you can pay somebody to say, I want you to increase my ranking on Google. You pay them to do it, or you can learn yourself, okay? Moving on. The next thing then as well I would do, if you're based here in Ireland, guys, register your company with the CRO. It only costs €50, okay, to register your business. Register your name straight away. It's only €50, just to have it registered. One thing I will say, again, I can't speak for anyone because I only know this about Irish and in Ireland. So I'm not sure if anybody who isn't from Ireland here, so don't take this literally. But in Ireland, if you're starting a business, you have 2 years, you're tax exempt because it's a business idea. So you tell the tax office, you tell revenue that you're trying this idea out, and it doesn't matter how much revenue you have, it's an idea. So if you keep saying that, you don't have to pay tax for 2 years, okay? And as far as I know, that still remains. Again, just don't quote me on that. I'm not an accountant or anything like that, or finance, so double check it. But definitely I had 2 years free tax when I first started. So just register for €50 so you're legitimate, you know. And then after 2 years, you can decide then if you want to go as a sole trader or limited and all that kind of thing eventually. Okay, the next thing I suppose is you have your presence, you have your social media presence, you have your website, you have your students, you're running lessons. How do students pay for you for the lessons? How do we get them to pay you? Okay, like kind of easily more so. So it's very, very, very easy to set up PayPal. It's the one I would recommend because a lot of non-native speakers trust PayPal. If you want to set up credit cards on your website, you know, like if you're using Stripe and things like that, if people enter their Visa or credit card or debit card, the transaction fees can be quite high. PayPal is very good. It's very good in terms of the fees and very simple. So when you're starting out, I would just stick with PayPal. It's the easiest way to do it. And you can do that as well. And whoever is doing your website, or whoever, if you're doing your website, just integrate PayPal. It's free to integrate it as well. Okay. Again, set up your business account on PayPal, your business name and your business logo. Okay. So the next thing, I suppose, as well, guys, is how to set prices and to know what to charge. Again, stalk your competition. If you want to check out, that's the beauty of starting your own business, is that you can really charge what you want. And if you want to be a high-end English learning service, then you can be a high-end English learning service, you know. It's like anything, no matter how much Apple will charge for the new iPhone, you're going to buy it anyway. So it might be a ridiculous price, you know. It's what you advertise yourself are. You have to pick your brand. Are you going to go for a high quality kind of brand, or are you going to go for cheap and affordable lessons? So you might, if you're really expensive, you might get fewer lessons. But if you're somebody who charges €5 for a lesson, then you're going to get way more client base, but they mightn't be as quality. So it depends. Again, when we're at the very start of setting up our own business, you have to envision what your brand is going to be. So when you're setting your logo, when you're setting your website, you have to think, okay, am I going to be high-end lessons and quality, or am I going to be a little bit more cheap? When you think about brands like, just to give you a really good example, okay, you have brands like, let's say, North Face, okay? They're kind of on the middle spectrum. They're not too expensive, they're not Gucci, they're not Louis Vuitton, but they're high-end, okay? But then you're having these big fish like, you know, Shein, this big company now, SHEIN, that's all over Instagram and all over Facebook and is everywhere and pops into even in your dreams. They're charging €1 or €2 for a t-shirt. Can you imagine how much business they're getting? So you kind of just have to choose, who do you want to be? And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you want to go for the kind of cheaper, inexpensive lessons, then you might get more business. Or if you want to go for the high-end quality, that's something you have to think about too. But it's something you kind of have to decide beforehand, because your brand, your logo, your marketing, that's all depends on that kind of vibe. Okay. So how to set prices and what to set. Stalk your competition, see what other people are charging. Guys, you're more than welcome to go into my own website and have a look at what I do. And that's an Irish kind of website and Irish based prices. And I think they're fair enough, but I mean, it's down to the person and everything like that as well, and what you want to charge. If you're teaching business English, if you're teaching exam English, you can charge nearly double. So if you're somebody who's doing these type of lessons, then definitely up the prices on those lessons. Okay. Okay. Another thing I would say, guys, about kind of setting up your own business is set up everything properly from the start. And as they say, you know, start as you mean to go on. You know, it might seem silly to you if you have one student at the moment and you only have one student a week, you know, and you say, why am I bothering sending them this, you know, template and making this needs profile, a student analysis proper when I only have one student? I can do it later. Set everything up properly, like you had 100 students and you'll be happy you did it. You know, it might seem silly to create a tracker and track your lessons if you only have 2 students. You're going to say, well, I can just track that in my head because it's only one student. I don't need to write down how many lessons. Do everything, set up your systems, make it as efficient as possible from the very start, and you're going to thank yourself a month or 2 months or 10 months down the line when you have so many more students. Okay, because this is a mistake that I made. I didn't do things as efficiently as possible at the start, and it got kind of messy when my students began to grow, you know. So just do everything properly from the start and you'll thank yourself eventually. Okay. So once you start teaching and you have your social media presence, you have your email list of students who are interested, you're sending out your business cards, you're sending out your flyers. Also, if you can, use a lot of email marketing. Okay. There's another, I assume a lot of you have heard of this program, but MailChimp. Okay, it's free. Set up an account. You can send monthly newsletters to your database every month. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of you even get newsletters from ourselves. Basically what it is, it's a way to keep your students or your paying customers interested, engaged. Okay, send them informative newsletters. Send them, it's a way to send them promotions. It's just a way to reach your audience other than social media. Okay, And every time you send an email, make sure to correlate it with a social media post. Okay, so if you're sending a MailChimp about Black Friday, for example, okay, I keep using Black Friday because it's an easy example. So this is all free, remember, right? Let's say we have Black Friday coming up. Okay, I'm giving everybody 20% off their lesson, something like this, right? Just an example. Send it out in the MailChimp to your database of students. At the same time, on that day, post it on your Facebook, post it on your Twitter, post it on your social media accounts, wherever it might be. Put it on your website. Try and market everything as a whole together so you get the biggest boost on that day as possible and you reach as many people as possible. Another big thing as well, guys, and I won't go too into it today, but Google AdWords. Once you start generating revenue, another good way to kind of get your word out there is Google AdWords. If you're not familiar with it, again, you can YouTube it, you can do little courses to kind of familiarize with yourself with it, or you can pay somebody on Fiverr to do it for you. Again, really, really cheap way of getting somebody to do these kind of services for you. Okay. Okay, the next thing I'm going to move on to, guys, here as well is, I suppose, again, I don't know how far people have gone with their TEFL courses, and I don't know if people have curriculums, but as I said, you're going to have students coming all the time, and there's going to be a lot of lesson planning. Okay, you're going to have to recycle a lot of materials. So what I would suggest, guys, is if you're somebody who has absolutely no materials and you're completely new, it costs a little bit of money, but in my opinion, quite worth it. Buy a set of books, a curriculum book like an A1, A2, B1, C1 and C2. Buy a curriculum book for each level. I love the company English File. Another one is Cutting Edge. So if you buy one book of each of those levels, you won't have to lesson plan. So if somebody comes to you and says they're B1, you can follow that book, basically. So it does cost a little bit, and you can get the student's book and you can get the teacher's book. So just imagine it's like you're in a class, you have your student's book and you have your teacher's book and they have the student's book. But by having one copy of these, you just kind of have an easy way to follow a lesson plan, okay? It's just having everything in one place, essentially. What I would suggest, guys, is obviously you're going to need a primary TEFL qualification. So if somebody here doesn't have a TEFL qualification, that is 100% the first step. That's exactly what you have to do next, is get a primary TEFL qualification. So it can either be a level 3 or a level 5. It doesn't really matter because it's for yourself and it's not for an employer or anything like that, but you have to get a primary TEFL qualification. The second thing I would recommend after this webinar today is, if somebody doesn't have any experience teaching English online and you haven't done it before, we have a 10-hour teaching online course, and it's done via Zoom with a tutor. It's either me or another tutor, Michelle. And basically, it's learning how to teach online. It's teaching practice, okay? So what happens is you spend 2 days, it's a weekend course from 9 to 1 or 9 to 1, and it's either with myself or Michelle, and you are the student, essentially. So you're sitting in the seat of a student and you're learning how to be taught. It's a really, really cool course. It's really interactive, but it's just for somebody, I would say if you've never actually taught on Skype or Zoom, it's a must. And it's basically just getting teaching practice and learning how to teach online and how to do it, essentially. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And if you already have a course with us, then get in touch or ring us, because you'll have a discount on that course because you already are a student with us. So if not, you can just go ahead and book it online. That's what I would suggest doing. Then after that, guys, if you already have your teaching qualification and you're comfortable teaching English online, we actually have a very good product, and it's basically called a Teaching English Online bundle pack, okay? And it's only, I think it's €129, but basically what's included in that, and it just saves you, if I'm being really honest, it just saves you a lot of hassle, a lot of organization, a lot of lesson planning. But basically what it is included in that. You get a 30-hour teaching English online course. You get 3 guides. You get teaching young learners, a lesson planning guide, teaching business English, a lesson ebook, which contains about 10 lesson plans already done for you. And it also includes a 15-minute recruitment call or a job assistance one-to-one call with a recruiter here in the office. That's what I would suggest going for if you already have your TEFL training completed and you're comfortable and you're a teacher. Go for that, guys, because it's really, really convenient and really helpful when you're trying to move on to the next step. So they're the 2 things I would recommend as well. So I know that was a lot of information and I was kind of flying through it. So I hope it didn't go on too, you weren't confused too much or wasn't information overload. But I do want to, if anybody does have any kind of quick questions, pop them into the chat box here. I'm just going to run through, I can't believe it's 10 to 6. I'm just going to run back through some of the questions there. Okay, there's a question there. Should I start a website straight away, or can I get away with just social media for a while? So that's a very good question. If you don't have the money for a website initially straight away, social media is a great way to start. You know, you have your social media, you have Skype to do your lessons, and they can pay you through PayPal. So you have all these third-party softwares, so you don't exactly have to go straight away into the website. Website is something you can build up to 100%, okay? If you have the money for the website, then go for it. But you know, it's not something I would rather, if I had €1,000 to spend in setting up my business now, I would 100% doing it on marketing. Getting your word out there, getting your flyers, getting your business cards, getting your name out there, your logo, just creating a presence for yourself, I think is the most important step, 100%. So if anybody has any other questions, they can throw them in there as well. I will send a follow-up email after this email. As I said again, guys, if you don't have a TEFL qualification, get one under your belt. And if you don't have teaching practice, do the 10-hour teaching practice. It's a must if you don't have it. And then the second thing I would say is, if you're fully confident in your teaching or anything like that as well, that online teacher pack, it's a 5-in-1 kind of bundle, is really helpful as well to kind of get you started and get you moving with the program. And I think that is everything. I think that's it for me, guys. If you do have questions, pop them in there. As well, at the TEFL Institute of Ireland, guys, we are always here to answer your questions. If you're part of the student alumni, just give us a call and we can do our best to kind of book you in. We do run webinars like this a lot of the time, so it's quite helpful to hop on here and see how other people are doing, or even to network with other people who are doing the same thing as you. It's a lovely way to meet other people that are doing kind of on the same path as you. And meeting people is always good. It's always good business, good networking, everything like that. Another thing as well, guys, is we'd really appreciate if you left us a review on how you thought the webinar went yourself. And we'd be, just getting the word out about our free webinars and everything like that. That would be amazing. I'll leave a link here in the chat box with a review, and I would absolutely love if you could leave a review. If you didn't enjoy the webinar, then don't leave the review. Thank you very much. But if you did enjoy the webinar, we'd love if you could just write a little review, and if you want to mention my name, that would be amazing as well. And the review link is there. So guys, I think that is it from me. Thank you all for joining, and I hope it was really informative for you guys, and I wish you all the best of luck on the TEFL journey. It's very exciting. It's a brilliant business to be in, and I hope to see you all setting up your own online business very soon. All right, guys. Thanks a million, and thanks for listening.